If you have one of these devices, please turn it to silent so we don't have phones ringing and being muted. And let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will call the roll. Our District Attorney, Anthony Pierce, is here.
Madam Chairman.
Supervisor Tippett, Supervisor Banks, Supervisor Feinberg, Supervisor Guy, Supervisor Flaherty, our District Manager, Chris Shoemaker, and our CPA, Stephen Bloom, are all in attendance today. And before we start, Mr. Banks had a request.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, if I could get the board and those in attendance to have a couple minutes of silence in the passing of George Huskamp last week. George was lived in my neighborhood, was my neighbor for many years, and I would say he was very committed to Gateway community and tried to stay involved, and so I just would like to make that request.
Certainly. We'll just do that now. Thank you for that. I'm sure that his wife will appreciate that. Audience comments? Do we have anybody that signed up to speak? If you didn't sign up to speak and you wish to, those are in the back. Whoa!
Ray, would you like to come and say something?
Oh my gosh.
I can say good afternoon.
Staff reports then. Finance Manager, a summary of general fund year-to-date revenues and expenditures.
So that was just for kind of informational purposes to see. I know we were talking the last meeting about potentially having some money left over from this year, just show, 100% of the assessments were collected. Our other miscellaneous income's been higher than budgeted, and we're under on the expense side so far.
That's good news.
Absolutely.
How much are we gonna have left over?
Can't predict the future. But either way, on the way we're going, and that's as of the end of June. So we got just a few months left of the fiscal year.
And I like this visual too, Mike. It's really easy to.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's what I was going to say. I was going to thank you for that. You did already. I like the bar graph.
This was a nice report. I agree with that. Anything else for Mike?
That's it.
All right. District Council.
Yes, a couple of items, and in terms, as we all know, the litigation against the district by Anna Marie DeFeo was dismissed, the stipulated dismissal with prejudice that was obtained by the retained defense counsel, Chris Stearns, that was retained by the district's insurance carrier, which is a very good result, so that's why we canceled the closed door session. However, Ms. DeFeo may not be the only potential plaintiff out there to try to assert non-compliance with ADA issues as to websites. They had a brief 1 hour, I'll call it a very educational webinar last week put on by Aegis, the insurance agency or carrier for a lot of local governments and CDDs. Roper, a firm out of Orlando that has been retained to represent a ton of CDDs by Aegis, and by an ADA website compliance vendor contractor who has entered into an agreement with a number of community development districts. And what was the upshot of, first of all, Ms. DeFeo or Mrs. DeFeo, as of 2 weeks ago, had filed about 102 lawsuits since April of this year against private entities and then governmental bodies and then against private entities for asserted non-compliance with the ADA website method. There are other people out there that have in the past filed lawsuits, a gentleman by the name of Juan Carlos Gill, sued Winn-Dixie, and Winn-Dixie paid $100 grand plus for his attorney's fees, plus their own attorney's fees, plus had to bring the website into compliance. National Federation of the Blind sued Target, and resulted in a settlement where Target paid $6 million into a reserve fund for the National Federation of the Blind. Had 6 months to remediate and renovate the website, and Target paid $3.7 million in attorney fees. That's just an example, small segment. So the upshot of that webinar was, we all need to try to remediate and renovate as appropriate, and there are a number of complicating factors, and maintain currency. And because there might be other ways coming, as more plaintiffs' attorneys look at an opportunity to recover costs and attorney fees by virtue of this type of litigation. Along those lines, and Chris and I will work with the chair to have an item with regards to what I've suggested to my other boards and managers is to solicit proposals from, and Chris I think may already contact somebody, I don't know, vendors that assist in providing guidance for website compliance, to initially bring it up to compliance and maintain compliance. And then the board would need to make some policy decisions as to what to keep on your website. The webinar had an example of a cost to convert an existing PDF file to an accessible file for visually impaired. It was $2.95 per page. So the unfortunate thing is you have a number of districts like Gateway who are very, very focused on making sure the residents, property owners, and taxpayers have easy access to the district's records without having to make public records requests, which takes up Chris's time and his staff time and costs money, 15 cents a page if you make hard copies. So a lot of it's on the website. Well, that's one of those hard decisions that's going to need to be made by boards collectively and individually as to what to keep on their website, because there's a cost associated with, if you want to keep old records, to bringing them current, new records to maintain compliance, and then there might be new guidelines coming out. I just received, I'm on a local government list serve of local government attorneys around the state, and email today about some new guidelines might be coming out, so I sent it on to Chris. I don't know if he's had a chance to read it yet, but again, there's evolving guidelines. So what I have created, actually another law firm created, I revised it, made some edits and corrections, and hopefully we'll have, I think in the next board meeting packet, a list of what is required to be on your website by Florida statute. Because the legislature has mandated certain items to be on your website, and there's a length of time for certain items. And then the board would need to, on an evolving basis, determine what you want on your website and what and how you want to have that. Because, and then you run into issues about audio and video, and there might be new guidelines about individuals with cognitive disabilities. I mean, so it's become an open season on local government in small communities. So again, that's the good news is that this particular litigation was dropped, dismissed with prejudice. The tough news is that there may be more coming. Yes.
3 questions. I take it this person is a resident and property owner in Gateway?
Boynton Beach. The person that
don't own any property in Gateway?
Not to my knowledge.
No influence in Gateway whatsoever?
None asserted, and my understanding, none necessarily needed, although standing could always try to be asserted to death.
Second question. Roughly what are the deficiencies we have in our system that 9,207 EAUs have never complained about?
Well, that's not the issue. The issue is...
No, that's not my question. My question is, what are the deficiencies this person's complaining about?
It's not accessible to the visually impaired or blind.
Okay.
And that's what the lawsuit says.
And the last one is roughly, what is the dollar value to fix this, that one person who's not a resident and not a property owner in this community, and roughly 10,000 other property owners in this community that have never complained about, want the rest to pick up the tab for it?
I don't know how much it'll cost. Again, that depends on what you want to do with your website as far as what documents you want to enter.
And it's not just documents, it's, so there's different levels. I was involved in a project with Bank of America from 2010 to 2013, where we went through a complete rehaul of our online banking and bankofamerica.com to bring it up to ADA standards. And there's a couple different levels. The WCAG is the standard, and there's
actually a 2.1 coming out.
There's a 1.0, there's a 2.0, and so there's different things that you can do, but it's everything from being able to kind of tap your website to how you access documents. If you've got videos or certain things that, screen readers, and it's pretty complex. So I think your point, Ed, is we need to figure out what, for a government organization, what is required, what level from the WCAG is required, or at least recommended, and then we can determine, I think, moving forward.
But just for the record, how many other complaints have we had from either a Gateway resident, whether they lease or not, and/or a property owner has ever complained about our website?
Well, I don't think we track it, so.
Well, no, I'm just asking the question. Has anybody complained?
We never have, and typically, if we get a request for public information, the person isn't indicating, and we haven't anyone indicate that it needed to be in that.
What's it cost to run a sheet of paper? 10 cents?
$2
6
to
5 cents? No, our actual cost,
Yeah.
couple of cents, maybe at the most.
1.2, 1.8, but,
So we could take those 2 million sheets that she wants, take them over to her and let them have them in Braille. It'll be cheaper.
It's not.
This isn't about,
That's
it's
not
not
the
about the
issue,
one individual.
yeah.
I mean, that,
That's not the issue.
Tony's indicated that's,
Unfortunately.
That's not the
that's
issue.
been resolved. It's,
I got a word
it's
that
future
begins with V
consideration.
and ends in T that I'm thinking about all this.
no, it's the law.
Mr. Attorney, can you remind me, in what court of competent jurisdiction was this lawsuit originally filed?
This lawsuit was filed in the Southern District of Florida, and that was the
It's the federal court.
federal court. And the reason why, part of the reason why, without going into all the details, as to the stipulation with dismissal was because we are located geographically in the middle district of Florida.
So they're just gonna refile.
No, apparently, no, my understanding of talking with, and I don't want to get into the whole detail on the public record, with the attorney that handled, I talked to Mr. Stearns, and there's no indication of any refiling by this individual. But again, there are other people out there, Mr. Haynes and Mr. Gill, have already filed litigations in the past against other entities, and there might be somebody else. Again, there are, attorney's fees are awarded against the defendants in these cases. No demand letters, to my knowledge, are required to be sent ahead of time. So it's, again, it's unfortunate. I think, so what I have, I'll send that list to Chris. It'll be in the next board pack. You'll see what's required. And I'll provide a copy of statutes that are involved. And then the board, and then Chris hopefully has some quotes from some vendors, and the board can choose a vendor. But the sooner, the better that this is done, I would suggest, because, and one of the reasons why a lot of the settlement agreements I've seen out there, at least motions to hold cases in advance pending settlement, is to give the CDs 18 months to come into compliance, remediate, renovate, monitor, and keep auditing, is because of the budget. Because most of the boards have already adopted the budgets from the budget cycle right now. One other aspect that may come in the future is some of the insurance carriers have indicated that while they may pay like deductible for the defense of these actions now, in order to provide insurance coverage for defense coverage in the future, they may require ADA website compliance audits. So that if you're not compliant, they may say no coverage under the policies. So that's another
Issue.
economic issue, yes. Mike, on if you have something?
Yeah, just to update what we've been doing. We've had phone calls with, I don't know, probably 6 different vendors that do this kind of stuff. We've done a demo or 2. We were in the call that Tony was talking about the other week, and we're kind of
Very
down.
educational call.
It was. And actually the guy who did most of that, Scott, I believe his name, with the ADA site.
Yes.
That's who we first reached out to, and he was really good, very knowledgeable. He was supposed to, we had a follow-up call scheduled with him. He never called, he's like falling off.
You know, he's probably
I
slammed with
think
about
he's,
10,000 new clients.
especially
yes.
from that call too. I mean, he's probably so busy, he's not reaching out for business, but we're kind of at the point of where either spend the money and have somebody just do it all for us, or if it's something that we want to try to do here and train staff, then that's also, as far as I know, if you want to go and start remediating it and then continuing on with it, a living, breathing site, it's at least for 6 months, I would say, a absolute full-time job.
What do you estimate the total dollar value?
Well, so in that call, he had said that just, he can't give a number because everybody's different, but just the audit for remediation, so this isn't even going in and doing all the work, was about $20,000, and then the PDFs that you have to have accessible, it's $2.95 a page. If you have a large quantity, which we would, he would go down as low as $2.50 a page.
So,
A lot.
And $3,500 for team training initially.
Yeah, and for training.
what's the requirement for us to have a site?
The state,
We have to.
We have to have a site.
There is
we have to have a website.
if you look in chapter 189, and that's what I have a list, I have a 2-page outline of what's required in the statute that's attached, that's what I'll send around. I don't know if I sent that to you, Chris, or not yet.
Yes, and also it requires you to put your annual audit on it.
That's correct.
So if you have a 200-page audit, you're gonna have $600.
You got $500 or $600 right off the bat.
And.
Well, to convert. Now, when you do it initially, the formats may be easier to make it accessible, but that's the conversion of past audits, yes.
So if you have somebody who's trained and can do it, they could do it, but, I mean, think about the time too. I don't know how in-depth it is to make those all compliant. I don't know how big
I think this
it
is something that the entire community needs to know about.
It's.
I agree. Again, it's an important,
This
it's
is
an,
absolutely absurd.
It's very, it'd be
It's
really
absurd.
And it's an important issue, but it isn't gonna change the
To
fact
one
that we
political
have to
party.
do something. Yes.
well, no, I mean, this has been around, it's part of the ADA.
To
And,
one political party.
You know, and apparently there was proposed Justice Department guidelines that were, as we understand from these conversations, that was probably the best hour I've spent in a long time. And there was proposed Justice Department guidelines to give some cover, I'll call it, to entities. And I think they were withdrawn last December. So there's no official governmental guidelines on it right now, but there are suggested from what the organization you mentioned, our WCAG, the Worldwide Consortium, and web content accessibility guidelines by them. And so, you know, I guess right now the only remedy is an amendment to the ADA.
Good luck.
But otherwise,
Yeah.
we're sitting here talking about $20,000, $30,000, $40,000.
Or more.
Or more of exposure to our residents for somebody who doesn't even live in the community nor owns any property.
Well, actually, the exposure right now is greater, quite frankly, because if someone else decides to file a lawsuit.
Well, I think, instead of continuing this conversation, there's some inherent things that we can do, Mike, and I'm not sure what conversation you guys have with our website developer, but some of the newer platforms have some inherent capability that allows for those with accessibility issues just to be able to navigate through the website. Where the cost really starts to come into play is with document repositories and other things like that. So before we go into a whole lot of detail in this meeting, I think we need to let staff come back, evaluate what the requirements are, what we need to do, and what the timeline is for us to get up to the regulation, if there are certain regulations that we need to adhere to. I mean, it could be a 2-year initiative. You start at, one
Agreed.
level and work your way up.
Yeah,
But,
if you also want to see an example of a public entity that has about 1 or 2 pages on the website devoted to it, FGCU. If you Google FGCU Accessibility Services under Office of General Counsel, they have a whole detailed about cognitive, motor, visual accessibility issues and how you can do that and what software, and it's complicated.
That's apples and
Yeah,
oranges.
and we talked to.
Question or comment?
I had a question. If we talk about folks who are partially sighted, limited sighted, is it, I'm sure it's not, but it seems like it's just a question of expanding or making larger the type on our website or report?
No, because you may have some that are totally blind, and they have certain
Then you're talking about.
there's a whole spectrum. It's
When you
limited
put braille on TV.
visibility. It is the complete blind. There's even
color blindness,
color
presbyopia,
blindness.
cataract.
Yeah, those with complete disabilities that don't have access to arms to navigate through a keyboard or a mouse, that are using different navigation tools and screen readers, and I mean it can get pretty complex. So when ADA covers the spectrum of those with accessibility issues, and it's not limited to sight deficiencies.
Well said.
And the other big problem too is the camera, the closed captioning, and
Mhm.
that's so expensive. I mean, We would, and it's like we can't stop doing the videos because we have to send them for
We just have to
do the
scope this
minutes,
in.
and
I mean-
so it's a lot to it, and I called the county and what they do, and they use a site, or a company called Site Improve. We did a demo with them. Essentially, it's software that just tells you exactly what's wrong, what you need to do to fix it. Your staff does it, but they also have a whole ADA department, obviously, with the county, so they do it all in-house.
So our online viewing, like right now, is off?
No, it's on.
It's on?
Yeah, we have a little, I forget what they call it, a little thing that states, we're working on addressing the issue.
It's like a little disclaimer that was sort of like an interim recommendation by a law firm that represents the FASD. But again, it's not a shield, it's just a.
Right.
I think the bottom line on this is we need to let staff work on it, and we've put the disclaimer on the website saying that we're working on it. That was.
Yeah, and then
and
what
we are.
what Chris and Mike have indicated, the extensive work they've done to date to try to get the necessary vendors, get examples, tests. And
Yeah, we have all that saved, we just show it to the attorney.
So that'll be, yeah, and that'll be something we can provide for the next board meeting.
Did you have anything else?
Yes, briefly on the South Florida Water Management District permit transfer challenge involving Camino Phase 2. The general counsel for, not general counsel, in-house counsel for South Florida Water Management District asked if we would object to holding the matter in abeyance and not sending it to the Department of Administrative Hearings. There's a time frame in the statute that once the petition is filed, the Water Management District can either dismiss it, grant the petition, or transfer over to the Division of Administrative Hearings. When it goes to DOAH, Division of Administrative Hearings, then you're in a trial mode. Discovery, depositions, subpoenas, all those usual matters, and set for hearing date, motion practice. And the idea was broached by the Water Management District's council was maybe give an opportunity for the district to talk with Lennar again, this district, talk with Lennar again, talk with engineers to see if it can be resolved outside the formal administrative hearing context. I consulted with the chair and the manager. There's a short window to do that, and I did that last Monday. And then the following, the WCI also waived that time frame, and WCI filed a motion to dismiss, which I had to respond to within 7 days, so I filed that response. In South Florida, has now issued an order holding the case in abeyance because both parties have waived transferring it over to DOAH. I've sent emails to Charles Mann, on behalf of WCI Lennar to try to set the meeting, and he's trying to get times for his folks so we can then have some of those conversations. And again, when the agency asks you to basically hold it off, see if you can just resolve it, you do that. It's less expensive maybe in the long run. On the FPL easement, I pretty much finished up my survey review. I just need to get the surveyor for a couple of nits, otherwise it looks in pretty good shape. I mean, it really does. In working with the chair and manager on the district engineer contract, I think we're having a negotiation session next Friday because of scheduling.
Where are we at on that? I haven't seen a copy of the contract. I asked for a copy of that. Where are we at?
We aren't at a point where we've got one to send to
We
the
have a
rest
draft,
of the
and so
board.
arguably it's a public record.
Since that was my background, I'd love to see a copy of this to be able to input into this.
Well, and again, it was drafted, and we're going to have a negotiation session next Friday and come to the board, and the board can also then have the opportunity to say that we don't like this, we want to add this.
Who's negotiating?
The chair, the manager, and I, and Danny.
What experience do you have in engineering contracts?
I have plenty of experience with contracts. I understand
Engineering
it.
contracts, that's my background, Margaret.
I understand that. I understand.
So then.
You'll have an opportunity.
I'll see a copy of it before it's.
In fact, Chris,
after
I
we
suggest
speak
Chris
with
send it out to the board
Captain
members tomorrow as a draft. I think it's stamped.
I'd like to see a draft copy.
I think it's stamped draft. And with regards to, I think we can do an add-on maybe for today's agenda item, or you may want to do it later under supervisor comments on the time frame.
Well, the
Existing
time,
contract?
I thought the time for the engineering contracts expired.
It has. That was the thing that he's bringing up. We need to
Have it
extend
extended
it.
effective as of 3 days ago. And so we'll discuss that.
So we're gonna be seeing a
Comments.
draft copy then ahead of time
Of the actual agreement?
of the actual.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
And we'll understand the agreement, if the one that gets sent out today is not gonna have any time.
I just think that the board members should have input in this and not just, well, we're all equal here, Margaret, we're all equal.
Yes, I agree
I
with
would like
that.
to see a copy of this agreement before it's negotiated. I do have a little
Well,
background in this.
With the sunshine law, the way it works is the opportunity for you to have your comment, you've all provided comments earlier on what should be in the
Right,
contract.
that's correct.
And it's been drafted, it's gone out to the engineer, and.
But I don't know that my comments got put in.
Well, you'll see it, and again, you really can't have any further meetings to discuss it outside the public meeting, because you went into sunshine law issues. So we have a draft agreement. If you're unhappy with it, or you want to add things or subtract things, the opportunity is, you can send those comments to me, and
I don't have a problem with that. I just want to see it, and I'll send my comments to you.
And that was the point that I wanted to make, that you've seen the original draft, from
And I
the
made
old
my-
contract.
And I made
You
my
your
comments, but I don't know
comment.
my comments got into the final draft. That's my point.
I have a question for the attorney.
Go ahead.
So, Tony, when the draft goes out, the board will have an opportunity to review it prior to the meeting with Tetra Tech.
And I would
Right.
suggest that you call me as opposed to putting it in writing.
So,
Yeah, we- I
if
won't-
there are, you know, comments, you're saying that has to go to you and not to Chris?
I would say, yeah, once again, and it gets, you're starting to get in the line of the sunshine law issues on that, because we have a document out there, and if you end up in the negotiation saying, well, we need to put this in, and the chair is there helping to negotiate it, then it gets a little dicey, I'm really concerned. Again, the board has more than enough opportunity when it comes as a regular agenda item to say, hey, we're not happy with what you negotiated, because Danny may say, I want this out, I want this in, and as a
It just
negotiating
occurred-
team, we agree or don't agree, and that comes to the board.
So if I'm just clear on the process, so we're gonna send a draft out so we can at least see
What's
what's
being
the
discussed.
current working
Correct.
draft. Staff, along with, the chairman and Tetra Tech are gonna meet, and they're gonna review, if there's, I'm sure it's gonna go to Tetra Tech
He'll be there.
prior to, for them to review as well.
Yes.
So if there's any issues or, points of clarity, they'll work that out.
We'll bring it
So,
back to the board.
Bring it back. So what should happen after that meeting is any red lines or any issues, we will get a draft in the meeting book
Yes.
a week before.
Yes.
So we'll have a week before the meeting to also look at the
Are
contract.
we getting the draft before the meeting next Friday?
Yes.
Yes.
We're getting the draft.
And then,
before
and
the
then
meeting.
and then the final draft.
version.
And
Yeah,
then
so.
there'll be a second draft.
And Tetra Tech has seen the draft right now.
I believe so. I'm not sure, I can't recall it.
If he has a copy, if not, I'll send it over.
Okay.
Tetra Tech hadn't seen it yet then.
I don't know if they ever not.
I can't recall, it's been that.
We sent it to him or not.
But they will
Well,
have, they'll have a
well,
copy before the
So
meeting.
if we
Oh,
all
absolutely.
get a copy,
Oh, yeah.
and then our communication is verbally with Tony, I'm happy with that.
But our opportunity to really provide input will be
At the board meeting.
at the board
So the
meeting,
public
once we've
can
had a
see-
week to review the final draft.
So the public can see what's going on and what's
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to walk into that meeting and it'd be time
And
with a bow on
remember,
top.
we've got 3 weeks till the next actual board meeting, so there'll be plenty of time, as soon as we have a second working draft,
Yeah.
we'll get it to everybody, which would be in plenty of time, even before the board.
Yeah,
meeting.
and what we'll do is we'll take the draft, we're gonna send the draft out that's there now. If there are any changes as a result of the negotiations with Tetra Tech, the next version will be redlined to show those.
So four members and Tetra Tech are gonna receive a copy of this initial draft next week, or tomorrow, whatever, such that we'll have it before the meeting to be able to give Tony our comments on what's
Yeah,
in
give
that
me a call on
version.
that, yeah, what your concerns are.
Pick up
Okay.
the phone and call.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Mrs. Flaherty.
That's what I was trying to clarify. We're gonna get the draft you have that's gonna go to the meeting next Friday,
Yes,
today or Monday, within that
Yeah,
time.
or tomorrow or Monday, yeah.
Right, yeah. And then we would call him, but we're gonna get a draft after that meeting on Friday again.
Well, after that Friday meeting, hopefully it'll be a final version if we come to an
Right.
arrangement as to what, between Tetra Tech and the negotiating. team.
Okay.
And if there is no,
Wait a minute.
and if there is no agreement, we'll come back and report there's no agreement, we need to go to the next round.
Guys, you're dealing with a national firm, this has to go to their corporate. It ain't gonna happen next week, I can tell you that right now. It ain't gonna happen. They gotta run an agreement like that past their corporate.
I think Mrs. Flaherty has the floor.
Thank you. So that final draft that comes to us, can we still talk about it and
At the board meeting, absolutely.
And if there's some corrections we needed at that time, be made?
You can suggest them, and then the board can decide, and if the parties agree, that's part of it. If not, then we,
You go back to the drawing board?
or walk away.
I'd much rather see the comments from Tetra Tech's legal counsel as to their comments before the board meeting.
If there are any, you'll have them, absolutely.
All right, so, but at our meeting with the final draft, we still can
The
talk
board
about it.
can discuss, and if Tetra Tech says yes, yes, if Tetra Tech says no, then no, and then the
Okay.
board needs to decide. Yeah.
All right,
It's-
thank you.
Yeah. I think I'm done for now.
So, with that, we need to extend the Tetra Tech contract at this point in time. So,
Do we have a duration that we need to?
I would suggest 60 days on the, and the next meeting, then we'll take it up in, 3 weeks from now? So we need to have it go back 3 days, so I would suggest a 60-day extension.
And retroactive as of?
3 days ago, I think was the date.
the 13th, I think, was when it expired.
And if you could, Madam Chair, if you want to add that as an action item, if you can ask if there are any comments from the public on that.
Okay.
Mr. Brand is not biting at the, chomping at the bit to comment.
I'm fine.
Okay.
Motion to extend.
For 60 days, effective 3 days ago. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion and a second. Any comments from the audience? No? Yes, Mrs. Blair.
As of 8/13, that's when we're
Correct.
expending? Okay, I
60
just want-
days, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And if it turns out it's 8/12, whatever, we'll make it, but I understand it's 8/13.
Okay, I'm just-
Effective date is, yes.
Writing my little notes
All in
here.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The district engineer is not here today because he really didn't have any items on the agenda, so we excused him.
Couple of things on that, though. Where are we at on our building contract proposal so that we can get that going with them?
Can we hold that to supervisor comments since our engineer's not here, so we can try and get through?
Well, I think it's a staff issue more than an engineering question.
Again, since it's not on the agenda, I'm gonna hold it for supervisor comments so we can try and get through the agenda. Stormwater management, the monitoring equipment, I believe this was Pelican Preserve.
Yep, and I'll take the front end on that. The district is in the process of installing the monitoring equipment. Got underway last week, and the contractor will be out next week to complete the 9 stations that the district's under contract for. Pelican has expressed some interest, and originally they looked at getting 4 of those monitoring stations in some lakes, and we did the preliminary survey. However, on some updated discussions with Mr. Gephardt, he said he'd like to see one of the full-blown monitoring stations between ponds 19 and 20 and have regular manual staff gauges on 3 of the original ponds. So that would bring that cost proposal down that was in your original agenda item. And that we had $25,000 on there for the monitoring equipment they really were originally looking at. And what they are doing now is looking at $13,500 for 1 automated station, 3 staff gauges, and the ancillary equipment, the cell modem that goes with it.
Question?
Go ahead.
I don't know, Bob, I don't know your pond numbers that well. I know Gateway's, but I don't know yours. Realizing that there's no weirs or flow monitoring
We're gonna have it at
devices.
the weirs, this is in addition to.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna have it at the weirs.
Yeah, I understand that, but the
Karina?
ones that we're putting it at, you realize that the only thing that we're gonna get is an elevation.
It's data, right?
Data, okay. Just wanna make sure, because there's no capability of,
And we're only gonna have 1 automated, the rest are just gonna be staff gauges. And our supplier's gonna report it every month in their written report.
and these are, I take it, key ponds within Pelican.
Representative,
Okay.
put it that way.
And just explain the difference, and automation sounds like, you know.
But we're putting in a device that measures the elevation of the water. When it has a weir attached to it, you can convert that to flow. But if you don't have a weir, it just tells you head. And
Just
in Pelican,
the staff gauges versus.
yeah,
what's the
that's all,
difference?
it's a recording staff gauge, is all it is.
Okay.
Instead of having a monkey down there that writes down a number every second, the gauge does it.
Okay. got
We
it.
didn't wanna waste the money for the automatic system in other areas where we just have interest to know what's going on.
And if you've had areas that historically in the past that have flooded, it would certainly be nice to have this kind of data to be able to associate a rain event with a elevation event.
So is a staff gauge, is that just a more limited monitoring device?
Oh,
as
yeah,
opposed
it's
to-
just a recording device. Then
Recording
monthly, when the
device.
service provider does his job, on his check sheet, he writes, I checked it, and it's 13 feet, 18 feet, whatever. And we'll just have a paper history if we care to go back and look
Okay,
at it.
so basically that's staff checking those gauges. Automation means there's something digital that's being.
All
sent.
the automation will come over here to the district, and will be a part of the whole package that we've got for all of Gateway as well as Pelham.
Motion to approve.
Madam Chair.
Mrs. Flaherty? Yes.
Okay, it says here that you wanted, cell service for each, but we're not gonna do the cell service, cell station service?
No, we are.
Okay.
And one. Only in one station. They went from 4 automated to 3 manual, 1 automated.
Thank you.
Bob Gepper, Pelican Reserve. Now, when we drafted our initial proposal,
Mhm.
it was still under consideration by Gateway. You weren't sure if you guys were gonna pony up the money. We didn't wanna be waiting. We had the money available. So in lieu of you not approving the master package for all of Gateway, including Pelican, we proposed where we wanted to have them. From that date till now, it has been approved by the board for the master system. So 3 of the ones we were looking at before are now in part of the package that is total Gateway. This is one step beyond that.
And, may I ask another question?
Yes.
And this is coming out of Pelican's
Pelican Pod's budget, yes.
account too?
Not
Okay.
for the master.
No, I know that.
But for these, yes. This is over and above what is required.
So confirm it is 12, 19, 20, and 36. Those 3 ponds, or 4 ponds.
Those were the 4 ponds originally.
I'm going off the top of my head, but I think so. We've gone back and forth a number of times. We've gotten some suggestions.
Again, motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, you've got it, Bob.
Thank you.
And do they have, Kristen, is there a software or something that we're using to track? So staff records the data and where
We'll
are
be
they,
bringing all that up later on.
where are they putting that data?
It's all coming back here, and it's really no different than the SCADA system for our lift stations. It's basically coming in here, Campbell Scientific that does the instrumentation, provides the software.
Okay.
And they can
So
load
we
it
plug it
here.
in and then it becomes part of the full data feed and, okay.
Yeah, and you can do any kind of data manipulation you want, or you can also have it sent directly to the cloud
Okay.
for the instrumentation.
Okay, 4B is aeration installation, Pelican Reserve.
And that is another item for Pelican Preserve, approved by PPAC. They are expanding their aerator system to a number of different ponds. And the total on that was $45,150.
Bob Gepper again, Pelican Reserve. What we are doing here is we have provided basic in aeration in every pond. Some of the ponds, particularly Cypress Grove ponds, were installed by Lennar WCI in compliance with, at that time, the current building criteria, permit criteria. They put in minimums. We have a huge lake with only one area here, but they put in aeration. So this is going to take incrementally, we're taking, I think, 4 ponds right now to bring them up to the standard that has been established for our community.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
What's the aerator maintenance schedule? How often?
It's turned out to be quite a bit more than we originally thought.
And I'm talking about just,
I'm talking about compressor cabinets, broken.
I'm just
houses.
checking, you know,
We're
just,
having the same
just
problem
annual
in
maintenance,
Park.
you know,
Our
checking to see how
contract
things
is
are going.
$700 a month right now for them to go out and check everything. And I think they check twice a month to make sure everything's working.
In the aerators, twice a
Yes,
month?
twice a month.
Seems
How many is
frequent.
that, Bob?
You've got a lot.
How many is that?
Ooh,
40, 50?
yeah, at least
Yeah,
50.
It's gotta be.
At least 50.
And do you need to check them that often? I mean,
We actually need to check them more often. This is one of the learning
Really?
curves.
I don't know anything about it.
Interestingly enough, alligators love these things. And they're constantly moving them around the ponds and biting through the hoses.
It's called a spa.
And,
Bob, you'll find out that residents will also check them for you.
well, our residents do. Boy, one's off, I get a call.
Yeah.
That's right.
But
So
to answer your question.
You're doing the monitoring and then.
This has been more of a problem than we dreamed when we first put them in. In my mind, you put them in, walk away, check them every year.
Yeah.
And it's quite a bit more than that.
Question,
Go ahead.
who's designing these for you guys, Bob?
Well, Tetra Tech was instrumental in improving the designs we got. They're package systems.
And you're putting specs and bidding?
We have specs, yes, we do that. And matter of fact, that's what's been going out as our bid package spec. But unfortunately, Pelican, when Lennar and WCI did it, I had no idea, and the equipment they got basically is garbage. It hasn't been good.
I have a follow-up question to Bob after this, but I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You've got your area.
Follow-up.
Go ahead.
I saw some emails this week that are immensely frustrating. This issue in Pelican Reserve of the discussion of between homes drain pipes. I don't know how anything could be more clear than what you guys have proposed. Are you needing our assistance in?
I need everybody's assistance.
What
Lennar
I-
has sat in here and so many times and said they're gonna do it. I've got letters from Darren saying they're gonna do it. I mean, we're willing to pay for it. And yet, when I did a field check last week, haven't done the first one.
It seems to me that we're shooting at a moving target.
Oh, we
And
absolutely are.
changing people quicker than we can get an answer.
Yeah, we started before the first home was built in Prado, and now there's gotta be 150. Before the first home was built in Pistoria, and it's half built.
My request would be that our district manager send a letter somewhat like what our president would send to somebody, and ask what the dickens is going on. This can't be any clearer. We've had communication, we have the clarification, we've had agreement from them to install these. What
We've even
part of-
agreed on a price that we're gonna pay per
What
home.
part of implementation do they not understand? They're duping us.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
You know, we got started on this and we get pulled in a few times to try to move the process along, but we actually got the price from them and I issued a purchase order to WCI based on that and the number of units. And we thought it was all moving forward. I followed up with a letter to David Caldwell. A few weeks ago, I followed up with another one, asking if he was gonna respond and do it. And also, we have some sidebar issues related to Karina. That Charles Mann said, well, if we're gonna talk about that, is there anything else? And I included that in the list of the sidebar issues that are.
I've never had an issue dealing directly with David Caldwell. Never.
Oh, no, Dave's a great guy, but he doesn't have the
Some of
juice
these
to
other
get it
people over there,
done.
they're here today and gone tomorrow.
But he does, you know, Rhonda Brewer agreed to it also.
Yeah,
before
what
she
do
left.
we need to do to break this loose? Because this is absurd. This is absurd.
This has all happened, my efforts with that, the latest letter and Charles Mann in the last 10 days. Is a follow-up.
Yeah, quite honestly, I thought they were doing, their conversations with us is, they're accumulating the addresses, they're gonna build a district, but they hadn't. So I went out to the guy that's actually doing the work in the ground. And I said to him, and fortunately I spoke Spanish, are you doing this? Oh, no. So then I tracked down the site construction manager. His name escapes me now, but he was in the last letter I wrote. And I asked him if they're doing it. He said, nope. I said, well, why not? He said, it's not in he had an official name for it. Some type of a document in which they plotted all of that. So
I feel like a donkey chasing a carrot. This is ridiculous.
I share your
So you'll
frustration.
follow up with
So,
David Caldwell
I
again?
think that's who.
It might be time for a letter from Tony.
Well, I think we've also, Chris, not sure if they got to Charles or not, but if you can, when you send it to David, CC Charles and myself on that, say, oh, in case you didn't get this list before, Charles, number one, here it is. Secondly, do you all have the folks and the dates and times yet to get together?
And,
That's a good idea.
And Bob, are these post-construction modifications or?
Yeah, but
Or
it's
as-
gonna be a
Now
lot
they-
more
now
expensive.
they are.
They are now.
It's gonna be a lot more, we're doing it in all of Pelican.
Yeah, well, I understand, okay,
Okay,
but for these.
but we were
these are all
hoping that in Prado and
post-construction.
Pistoia it would be done.
I mean,
It's a whole lot easier to do it when you start than to come back in.
It's sort of like the highway people, they get the road done and then they go back and make a utility cut.
Yeah.
We're gonna put all the sod down, then we're gonna go back and tear it out to put in these deals.
Correct.
is there, Tony, is there a possibility that, if whatever the reason Deputy CI or Lennar comes back with, if there's a timeline I think we should probably put in place now, because of the delinquency, is it a possibility for us to do the work and then bill Lennar? Is that even?
No.
Bill them, we could do the work, and we didn't like.
Yeah, because we're asking them to do the work and bill us.
I'd rather
So
do
we
that.
clearly said we'll pay for it.
I'd rather
Oh,
do
okay,
that.
we are, okay, I'm
I'd
sorry,
rather do
yeah.
that as step two.
Yeah, got it.
Let's do step one and.
I thought
and
we
put 'em on-
agreed they were
No, I hear
covering
you.
that as part of the.
Put them on notice.
Yeah, all right.
It was supposedly, the whole thing was supposed to be in the permit criteria manual. And when they started building out there and they weren't doing it, I went back to Tetra Tech and said, how can this be? And then we got into the gray fuzzy area. Well, that's what we meant by what we put in the manual, but WCI chose to interpret it a different way. So rather than try to fight that battle, we said, okay, we want it, we'll pay for it, just do it. But we
Got it.
still haven't gotten anywhere.
Thank you, Bob. I'm gonna move us down to 6A and B, which are consent agenda items. I'll take a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A and B. A second. Thank you, Kevin. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Supervisor comments. Mr. Tinkle, I know you have.
Better take me at the end.
one.
Give
No,
me
go
a good
ahead.
time.
Go ahead.
Okay, I take it, that are we going to address budget issues here before the public hearing, or are we gonna do it before the public hearing?
I think it should be at the public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay, next one is, I asked the question earlier and we delayed it to this. Where are we at on getting a proposal back from Tetra Tech on the building? Because I really want to get that building moving along.
I believe at the last meeting you instructed them to bring a task order back, and I haven't seen anything.
So we contacted them, the ball's in their park.
You instructed Danny to bring it back at the last meeting.
Okay.
Well, just pause it for a second.
Yeah.
If we instruct Tetra Tech to submit a task authorization, we need to determine what's a reasonable time frame for them to do that. And if they surpass that, because we're all busy, I understand. We need to have, staff needs to be a little more proactive than reaching out and say, hey, where are we at with this task authorization? We'd like to get moving so we can have an update by the next board meeting. So if they're behind, let's hold them accountable and push on our end too, instead of coming to the meeting and saying we haven't heard anything from them. So just for future reference.
Next one is
Do you
the.
suppose if we had a contract with them that might hurry it up a little bit?
I don't know.
We do, it's extended. About
It
20
wasn't-
minutes ago.
It wasn't 20 minutes ago.
Next item, hydraulic modeling. This is gonna be something that comes up in the public meeting. I'm gonna make a recommendation for including in the budget, money for hydraulic modeling, of the, stormwater management system. I'm estimating somewhere in the neighborhood of $120,000, of which, if we base it on the EAU count, 2/3 of that would go to the 001 account, and 1/3 would go to the 002 account, so that's gonna be upcoming. Next item is the head recorders. I don't know, we've been out collecting samples. The head recorders, for the most part, are in. They haven't put in the, what's the word I want? Batteries, solar batteries, to get
What is
those
it?
working.
Head recorders for?
For the head recorders to measure all our weir elevations,
Oh, okay.
to facilitate the hydraulic study. So that's going, and the company that we hired is doing a good job on that. The big one we got, and I understand that I may have gotten in the middle of a deal, and I guess it was innocent, but maybe not to some. These head recorders are good only to the extent they talk to the computer and tell the computer that you're measuring 3 inches over a weir. That means nothing to me until we convert it to MGD or CFS. That's called a formula. Our provider, John Richmond, needs the formula calculations. Who's putting those formulas together?
That was is also, we asked Danny last week for a task order. He said it'd take him 6 to 8 hours to do it, and we haven't heard back from him yet.
Okay.
If I don't hear back from him, by the end of tomorrow, I'll just get another firm to do it. It's not a big deal.
Well, let's follow up with
I
that,
can-
text.
I can
Where are
do
we
it-
at with that?
I can do
before
it
we-
myself
we
in
take
10 minutes going,
action?
Googling the formulas, but anyway.
Yeah, it's not
Uh,
complicated.
Access to Weir #1. Every month, I get more frustrated, and this is, Tony, gonna fall back in your deal, of going across I-75, and unless I have a helicopter in the wet season, I'm not gonna get to Weir 1. It's that simple. We're trying to put in devices, I guess we're gonna have to bring in a vendor, and Chris is doing this, and I think it's about the only option we got, to bring in a swamp buggy to get our vendor back to be able to install the most critically needed Weir measurement location we got in all the Gateway, which is where the water leaves Gateway. That's the critical deal. We can't get back there. What do we need to do to go out there and take 10, 15, 20 truckloads of #2 stone and fix that road and be done with this once and for all? We can't go back there. Last time Elle and I went, 2 months ago, we went back there and we had water coming in the doors of the truck. It was that deep.
Is that north-south leg or east-west leg?
North-south leg. East-west leg,
Both?
it was close. We made the turn and decided to try the north-south leg, and that's what it got. I said, I'm not going any further. I don't want to be out here and have to go through that water. I don't like snakes, and I sure as hell don't like alligators. What do we need to do to put in stone to get that done and be done with this? The road is ours. We're gonna end up eating the expense. WCI isn't gonna pay, or Lennar isn't gonna pay 1 nickel for this. Let's go out and bite the bullet and bring in the stone and fix that silly road so that we and all of our vendors can get back there and maintain that. Do we have the legal ability to go do that, or are we still chasing an easement?
I'd say we're still arguably chasing an easement.
Can we-
The city may have a utility easement there. I guess the question is how they access it, and that might be a conversation with them as to assisting them in accessing their utility easement. We can do that for another governmental body. Yes, I north-south, it was north-south.
South Florida Water
And-
Management District has made it clear it's out.